Hello, TLU Bulldogs and Bulldog parents. It's nice to be with you again for a town hall that's designed especially for you so that I can provide some information, give you some updates, and hear your questions today. As I get started, I want to be sure to say again that I hope that each of you are safe and well. I hope that you're taking good care of yourself, that you're following the CDC guidelines, sticking to the rules about how we can best end COVID-19, being patient, and finding ways each day to enjoy grace, comfort, and growth. I know that even as we have transitioned to a sort of new normal, this still feels like a really strange semester for you. I know that the changes have not been easy for you and certainly have not been what you or what we expected this semester. Your absence on campus is a daily reminder to me that we are being asked to sacrifice in order to do our part to help the world heal and get back on track. We're willing to do that, of course, but don't think for 1 minute that we don't feel your absence and miss you all tremendously. I want to provide my updates to you today in 3 major categories. So let me start first with academics. You are now 2 weeks into your online learning environment with just over 2 weeks to go until our last class day on April the 29th. I appreciate what you've done to make this transition, and I encourage you to stay the course. Keep studying, keep working, keep knowing that you can do this. And when you hit a bump, or you feel stuck, you get frustrated, or you are in any way unsure about your academic work, please be sure first to talk to your faculty member. Be in touch. That's always the best way to work through a problem that you may be having in any of your courses, and that certainly remains true right now. I know that your faculty want to hear from you and they want to help you. And along with that, please don't forget that all of TLU's support network is still in place for you. Our advising office, our career development office, our counseling services, student financial services, the registrar, all of it, they're all here for you. Even with most of our staff working remotely now, every TLU office is open and able to help you. So please be sure to let us know as you move through the rest of the semester what we can do to help you. As I told you in our last town hall, we are here for you. It may look and feel a little different right now, but we are here for you. And we will be here for you just as soon as we can in the more traditional and normal ways, just as soon as we can do that in a safe way. Also on the academic front, I know that some of you have had questions about how grades are going to work this semester. So the first thing I need to tell you is that no decisions have been made to this point to change our normal grading process. But even though we have not made those changes yet, I can also tell you that the TLU faculty are busy discussing this issue and considering the best ways to approach it for this very unusual semester. We will have further information to you soon, certainly, and we'll let you know if any changes are being made to the normal approach to grading. I do want to emphasize to you that I can see clearly that as the faculty is going about this work and considering this very important issue, they are working hard to take into account the many aspects of what students need this semester, and they're also being very attentive to fairness as they look at this important question. I want to move now to talk secondly about finances, something that I know is on all of your minds. As you know, first, if you lived or ate on campus this spring, you are going to receive a refund net of any balance that you owe for the unused portion of your room and board charges. Each student at TLU who qualifies will receive a check by the end of this month with a prorated amount that is based on your individual situation. If you have any questions about this, please contact our Student Financial Services office at any point. Also, as some of you may have heard and seen in today's daily update, the federal stimulus package, or the CARES Act, is now, it's clear now that it is going to ensure that students who need additional support this spring due to needs created by the coronavirus will receive that support. Late last week, we got a confirmation on the federal funds that TLU will have access to in the coming days, and we'll be providing an opportunity for students to apply for these funds. Please watch for further details from our Student Financial Services Office this week. In addition to those two areas, I also want to remind you that all federal work-study students will continue to receive their funding from that program throughout this spring. And third, and finally, I want to turn to say a little bit about summer and future events. First, we finalized our summer school schedule, and you should have access now to what classes will be offered in May term, Summer A, and Summer B. As of now, we have 67 courses on the schedule across those terms, offered as follows. May term will be online only, and no student housing will be provided. Summer A, which runs June 1st through 26th, will be online only, and there will also be no student housing for that term. Summer B, which runs July 6th through 31st, will include a mix of online and face-to-face courses, assuming that government guidelines will allow that, and we believe that we can safely deliver courses in that face-to-face format. For Summer B, we will offer limited student housing for research and internship students, again, assuming that it's safe to do so by that time. Summer research opportunities for students overall will be determined by individual faculty members who will evaluate if the planned work can be done within the parameters above. TLU's summer program has included online courses for a while, so the adjustments we're making for this summer are not near as big as what we had to do for this spring. But still, summer will look a little different this year. That said, there are great courses on the schedule, and this could give you a great opportunity to continue your TLU work this summer. And remember, TLU summer tuition is already discounted to help you be able to take these courses with a financial advantage. Summer courses are $370 a credit hour. On other summer fronts, we're still planning a historic commencement celebration for the class of 2020 on Saturday, August the 1st. We're still working on the details and considering the best way that we can give you the best event possible. So seniors, please keep working hard, finish your work successfully, and look forward to a great event on August the 1st. Beyond the summer, we have not made any adjustments regarding fall classes or events. Our hope, of course, is that we will be back to a more usual schedule and that we'll be seeing your happy faces as we do that. We'll keep monitoring our national, state, and local environment, and we'll let you know if any changes are necessary. As we continue through the remainder of this semester, our goal remains to keep you safe and to provide you with your TLU education in the best way possible. Working through this spring, I remain aware of how much is being asked of you and what a big part of history you are as TLU students at this time. Not to sound too much like your mom, although I don't really think there's anything wrong with sounding like your mom, but I do want to remind you, every challenge also provides an opportunity. You have the opportunity to come through this spring strong, healthy, smart, and ready for what's next. And that's exactly what I hope you'll do. Right now, what I hope you'll do is send in some questions so that I can respond to those. I'll be happy to hear from any of you about anything you might be wondering about, and I'll have those questions relayed to me and I'll respond. So let's see what we have.
We have 107 people joining us today, and we'll start with a couple email questions if we can. Can you talk a little bit more about when a decision will be made about the fall, or what the plan is for that?
So a question about the fall and when we might anticipate decisions regarding the fall. We certainly don't have a date yet in mind. We're going to have to do what everyone else is doing, which is to just follow what's happening, how quickly the virus is pulling back and things are able to open back up. It's just way too early to tell yet about that. As I said, our hope is that we'll be able to be back to a usual type schedule, but we know that we'll just have to watch that closely and then communicate well with you if there are any changes.
Thank you. There's a question, will there be emergency housing in the summer?
At this time, we will look at what the needs of our students are. If students do have emergency needs, we'll take those under consideration just as we have this spring. The clear policy will be just like it is this spring, that there will be no housing offered to students in the usual way, but we will certainly take into consideration emergency needs and see what's possible.
We have a question from someone who didn't leave their name. Before everything happened, it was brought to my notice that summer classes were increased to $370 an hour. Can you explain why this is so, when the value hasn't changed for students?
So a question about the rate for summer school classes. Yes, we did increase that rate. I think more than a year ago, that rate was changed, and it was an adjustment made as we looked at our overall tuition costs for the year and the cost of running the summer program. But in making that adjustment, which I believe was a $20 a credit hour increase, so it was a modest increase, the idea was to still keep summer tuition well below what you would pay in the longer semester and well below what a lot of other institutions charge.
The next question is, will we be receiving our checks in the mail?
It's this is a question about how students will get their refund checks for room and board. It's my understanding that those checks will be mailed. I'm sure that if you had questions about making sure the address is correct, or if you had a different preference for getting your check, you could just let Student Financial Services know that. But I do believe the plan is to mail the bulk of those checks.
John is asking, what student workers will be able to work remotely?
This is a question about student workers and who can work remotely. So what we've done is ask all areas of campus to provide to us their plans for where they will need student workers. It's really going to be determined by needs on campus for this very last part of the semester. And so we will have some students working remotely, but not most. Most of our student workers will not be working remotely simply because we don't anticipate the work needs being the same. Of course, that's just for this semester. That's to get us through this very different environment we're in, and that doesn't necessarily then carry forward, but it will be determined by what work can actually be done and need to be done remotely.
We have a couple questions asking for clarification on the credit, no credit grading or pass-fail grading system. Can you clarify that?
Some questions about the grading system, and again, I'm going to start by emphasizing that at this point no changes have been made to our grading system. The faculty are working on that. They will be doing some further discussion, and we'll have a resolution on that soon. This question seems to be asking about what maybe the difference would be between credit, no credit, or pass-fail. I think primarily what you look at when you look at credit, no credit is whether or not you're going to have grades be part of that equation. They can be, but you can replace a grade of F with a no credit rather than the grade of F. And if in that kind of situation, what's different is how the GPA is then calculated. So there are, this is a very good question that goes to the point that how grades are given at any time, including now, can be done a lot of different ways, and then that feeds in, of course, to calculations of grade points, and it feeds into transcript and what appears on the transcript and what future needs there are for students in that regard, and those are all the issues that our faculty are working on right now.
Mark is saying, hi, Dr. Cottrell, how are you holding up, and how are you doing?
Hi, Mark. It's nice to hear from you. I appreciate you checking on me, and I continue to feel that I have great support around me. I'm working with a lot of people, mostly remotely now, who are so committed to TLU. I'm so proud of how hard I see our faculty working to make this adjustment go well for this spring. And all of that just gives me a lot of gratitude and hope and very strong sense of a positive way through these challenges that we're dealing with. So with all of that in mind, I'm doing well. But I also, Mark, want you to know that I'm working hard to take care of myself. I'm trying to make sure that I'm eating right and getting some exercise and getting enough rest and following all the CDC guidelines. And, that's exactly what I want you to do too. So thank you for checking on me.
A student is asking if we've already paid off our room and board with loans for the semester, will we not be seeing any refund?
Question about if loans have been used to pay off the room and board charges, would there not be any refund? I'm going to suggest that that's a really good question for Student Financial Services. As I've mentioned, every situation is individual and different, and that's what Student Financial Services is working through right now. I can tell you that if you have a balance, that balance will have to be taken into account when your refund is calculated. When you get into your individual loan questions, I think the best thing would be for you to check with Student Financial Services and work with them on understanding what your exact situation is and then what you would be eligible for.
Very important question from a student. How is Tallulah doing?
A question about how Tallulah is doing. So I need to mention first that I have not seen Tallulah recently, which tells me that she's practicing good social distancing skills, and I would expect nothing less from Tallulah because she knows how important it is to be healthy for us in the future. I think I did hear indirectly that she's doing fine, and that I think she was interested in having some Easter pictures made. Tallulah, she's all about fashion, and so I think that was, we did hear from her in that regard, but I think she's doing well.
A student asked a question from the last town hall. What is the deal with squatters' rights for students living on the campus apartments?
So the squatters' rights question comes back to haunt me in the halls. And I did actually follow up and try to get myself educated on this, and I think that it has something to do with folks getting to determine which rooms they want in their halls as if they are returning to live in the halls. Eric Booth is the expert on that and on what that's going to mean in terms of next year. As I recall, Eric gave some assurance that things would be fine on this front, but you're probably looking for a little bit more information than that. So I would suggest that you be in touch with Eric.
Is there an update on partial refunds for service fees or anything?
So a question about refunds beyond room and board, and at this point TLU is not planning to do any kind of partial refunds on service fees nor any kind of tuition refunds. That's primarily because we're trying to keep all of our services and our classes going. We're trying to make sure we've got things in place to keep that as strong as possible for you. But I do want to emphasize one of the points that I shared today in the financial update is that we do now know that the federal government is making available to us funds that are designed specifically for students, can be used only for students, to help you if you're having any difficulty that's related to the coronavirus epidemic that we're living through. Our Student Financial Services Office is going to put together an application that you can use to apply, and they will provide further information on that. I also want to emphasize that this is happening quickly. We anticipate those funds being available within a week, and we anticipate being in touch with you all this week about the opportunity to apply. So if finances are an issue that you're concerned about, and if you're having some particular problems related to our current environment, I encourage you to be on the lookout for that information and then to submit your application.
Has a fall ring ceremony been considered as an option?
Have we considered a fall ring ceremony? I suppose that would be in place of this spring's ring ceremony. It's my understanding that our plan is to get the rings to you all via mail, and I think that's the plan that we're sticking with as opposed to holding them for longer. I would say that if you have questions or concerns about that, Renee Rayfeld in our development office is involved in that whole process, and you could be in touch with her. But I think our plan is to go ahead and get those out to you all this spring.
A parent is asking if family and guests will be able to attend graduation on August 1st.
A question about who can come to graduation on August 1st. So our plan right now, our thought is that what we want to offer, if it's safe and we're in the clear to do so, is something as similar to a usual service, commencement service as we would normally have. And so that would mean having family and friends there in support of you at that event. Again, we're going to have to monitor and make sure that will be safe to do, but if we can do something on August 1st, and that's certainly our hope and our plan, then we would look to do something very close to our regular commencement ceremony, perhaps with the only caveat being that we'd actually like to maybe make it even more special and add some celebratory components to that event.
The next question comes from a student. He says, many students like myself are stranded without access to a computer or printer, making online courses extremely difficult. Is there any hope of seeing a refund of money paid to use on-campus resources?
So, question about when a student is having difficulty because they don't have a computer or printer or other technological access, would there maybe be any kind of refund to help address that? I do think that's a great example of where this federal stimulus money could come in to help families, students. These kinds of funds are available for exactly that kind of need. So I would encourage you again to be on the lookout for that information and then determine how that could help you through the particular situation that you're in.
The next question comes from a parent. Does TLU have a parent organization that exists for the university? I think it's important for parents to have a vehicle through which they have a voice to express concerns.
So a good question from a parent about whether or not we have any sort of parents organization. It's my understanding, I believe, that TLU has had such an organization in the past, but I don't believe we have anything like that right now. I would agree. I think it's a great idea, and I know many other institutions have something like that. So I'll put that on my list for follow-up. And it, of course, I think a good point here is that a group like that can be important not only in a time like this, but really at any time. The involvement and interest of our parents is always a great thing for us to have. So I'll do some follow-up on that, and thank you for that.
A question from John. Would student workers who aren't able to come to work and can't work remotely be eligible for applying for these funds?
So the question is about a student worker. If the student worker is not able to work remotely, or the funds aren't available from the student worker account to support that, would they then be able to apply for the federal funds that I've been talking about? I would certainly look into that if I were you, and particularly I think what you'd need to do is make the case about if you no longer have your student job, what sort of hardship that's created, and then make the case to get the federal funds in support of students based on that. It won't be up to me to determine that, I should be clear to say that, but in your place I would certainly look into that and see what might be possible.
The next question comes from a parent. If a pass-fail system is instituted, will a student have the option to receive a letter grade? This is important for students who apply to medical, dental schools, etc.
So another good question about grades, and if we were to institute a change, move to a pass-fail system, whether or not students would still have the option to receive a letter grade. And again, even though no change has been made to what we're currently doing, my understanding is that there's nothing under consideration that would remove that option for a student to have letter grades if that was their preference. The person who asked this question makes a very good point, and it's something that our faculty are keeping in mind, is that there are students in situations who need to receive letter grades as they think about their future professional work and the professional schools they'll be applying to and what will be needed across a host of disciplines. I think this could be true. So wherever the faculty, however they resolve this, they're certainly working to make sure that they don't disadvantage any students in this process. And that's why I say it's my sense is that the option of keeping letter grades would be there regardless of what the other options are.
If we are transitioned to an alternative grading scenario for this semester, when would we be informed, and how will it affect summer grading?
So if we make any change in grades, when will you all find out, and how will it affect summer grading? I think any change in grades will be communicated to you in the very near future. The faculty are working on this right now and understand that if a change is going to be made, we need to get that word out soon, since there's not a lot of the semester left. So I think you can expect to hear something soon on that. We haven't yet had a discussion about summer grades and how that will work. I think we'll turn to that just as soon as we get through this discussion for this semester, and then again communicate that to students so that you know how the grading will work.
The next question is, why are summer prices increased when most students aren't on campus or able to pay fully for summer classes?
So another question about summer school tuition. I just want to reiterate that we've not raised the tuition for this summer. The summer tuition rate was set earlier. We haven't changed the rate that was planned for this summer. And again, our summer program is going to look not that much different than usual. We will have more online classes, but we've typically run a large number of online classes in the summer. So we're not seeing the summer program as being drastically different than what it has been. The tuition rate was set earlier, and that's the rate that we'll stay with for this summer.
A parent writes, one of the good things about this situation is that it has helped to clean up the environment. Are we going to change anything on campus to keep our environment cleaner if and when we return to school?
So this is a great question about the environment and the opportunity that what we're living through now gives us to be, I guess I would say, better stewards of our environment and have a chance to take better care of things here on campus and beyond. And you know, I think if we learn lessons from what we're living through, we certainly will be attentive to how we can continue to take good care of things. It's always more challenging when you have people around and when things are being used in a way that they're not right now. But certainly there are lessons to be learned, and it's a really good point you're making about us being mindful of that as we look to the future and as we do come back and have our campus full again.
A student asks, if a senior wants to come to campus to take graduation photos, will this be allowed?
A question about having students come on campus to take graduation photos this spring. You know, we fully understand why coming back to campus and taking photos would be something that you'd want to do, but I'm going to have to say it would not be the best thing to do right now. We're really trying to keep our campus as empty as possible. We're trying to keep it extremely safe for the few folks who are here working on campus. We're trying to minimize that. And so I would suggest that if you have other options, if you could do that or wait a bit, just wait a bit and take those pictures a little bit later. I think that would be the safer, healthier thing to do. In general, when we're being asked about having things on campus, people coming to campus, people gathering on campus, any of that, our answer right now is we really don't want to have that happening because it's not in the best interest of safety and it's not in the best interest of helping our world get back on track. So I fully appreciate the question. I would just encourage you to wait if you can, or to find another not as great but still good spot for those photos.
Couple more questions related to the rings. Have they arrived on campus yet? And would you consider some kind of ceremony for such an important accomplishment?
So questions about the rings, are they here? And would we consider maybe a delayed ceremony? I don't know the answer to the first question. I was told that they would be arriving and would be held in the chapel and then be sent out, but I don't know where we are in that timeline. And then the second question again, would we consider maybe holding them and having a ceremony later? I'm going to again suggest that you be in touch with Renee Rayfeld, our Vice President for Development, to have that conversation and to see what might be possible. Since I'm not aware of where we are on the timeline, it's also hard for me to know what would still be possible to change or not change, but you could certainly follow up with Renee on that.
So we just have time for a few more questions. The next one comes from a student. Why aren't TLU professors more accommodating in their work due to the pandemic?
So it's a question about faculty members and faculty members accommodating student needs. You know, I think what I'm going to say is if you have a concern, if you have a question, if something's not working well for you, you absolutely should be in touch with your faculty member. In my conversations with faculty members, I know that they're working hard to help students to understand what students might be struggling with, to give guidance, to accommodate. And so I would encourage you to follow up with your faculty members. Don't make assumptions about what they won't visit with you about. I think they're all eager to work with you. So please, whatever specific question is driving that concern and in whatever course it's in, please follow up with your faculty member.
The next question is, can more classes be offered in the fall because people can't afford summer classes?
A question about more classes being offered in the falls if people can't afford summer classes. We have our fall schedule out. It's out with the summer schedule now. I would say that if you are concerned about a class not being available, or if you're concerned about needing to take more hours in the fall because you can't take them in the summer, then I would certainly encourage you to communicate that either to your faculty if you're looking for classes in a certain area, or you could be in touch with our Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Sitzler. The fall schedule was put together with input, as always, from all of our academic departments based on their understanding of the needs of their students and on what courses needed to be offered to fulfill the major requirements. So if there's something there that's missing or you have a concern about that, please follow up either with your faculty member or Dr. Sitzler.
Will the FAFSA be available to help pay for summer classes?
Well, the FAFSA, of course, is a form that's completed then to provide eligibility for financial aid. So this question is about what would be available for summer financial aid. And typically what you see is there can be financial aid available in the summer. It just depends, again, it's an individual situation, depends on how much aid you received, how much aid you've used, and what you might have left. So having the FAFSA completed is the first step then to being eligible for financial aid, and nothing about that changes in our current environment.
Has anything been decided about the watch ceremony for four-year athletes who are graduating this spring?
So a question about the watch ceremony for the four-year athletes. I know that question came up last time, and I have not heard anything further on the watch ceremony. I do know that there's interest, great interest, in making sure that the seniors are recognized. And I think our athletic director, Bill Miller, is the point on that and could provide further information if you need it. I also know that just as soon as details are arranged, we will get those out to the students.
A parent is asking, is TLU responsible for counting each student for the Census 2020? Parents are not allowed to count them after April 1st.
So a question about TLU counting students for the census. I'm going to say I don't know the answer to that question. We'll need to look into that for you and get some information back out to you. We certainly want to make sure that we all do our part to have students counted, and if they're not going to be counted through their parents' residence, then we'll want to do what we can. So we'll do some follow-up and get further information out on that.
The next question comes from Ellen. My son expressed that he's doing more work now than before spring break. He's not only stressed about his assignments, but he has lost both his campus and post-graduation job.
So a concern about the difficulty of classes in the online environment and then related stress factors. You know, I want to say that I certainly understand that the changed environment is difficult, and that in some cases, and I think faculty members would say this as well, an online learning environment is not necessarily an easier one and can be a more complicated and difficult one. So I certainly understand that. I'm going to say again that I think working with your faculty, letting them help you, letting them give you guidance is the best way to go. Just don't feel like it's up to you to do this on your own, but rather seek the help that you need to get you through the challenges and the differences. And we recognize that people learn differently, and that the online environment can be challenging in some ways for people, that it's not for others, and that there are just so many factors here. And so we're doing our best in this environment, and we want the opportunity to do our best. And I would just encourage you to utilize your faculty and the other support that we have in place. The other stress factors, which we know can be financial, they can be emotional, they can run the gamut in a time like this. Again, I encourage you to let us help if we can. On the financial front, I do think there's some opportunities, particularly with this federal money that's going to be available, but we've also got our counseling services available. We have all kinds of TLU support that can help, and we would certainly welcome hearing from you at any point, whether it's about your academics or your finances or any other aspect of what you're going through right now.
A parent is asking for an update on admissions for the fall. Are the number of applications the same for this time of year as usual?
So a question about our fall enrollment picture and whether or not things look about the same. We're a bit behind with deposits. We just got a report this afternoon that shows us running, I think, about 45 deposits behind where we were this time last year. Now, I want to be quick to say that every week since early March, when we moved into this environment, we have continued to receive deposits, and we're very encouraged about that and appreciative for that, and we think it bodes well for our fall semester. But we have to be realistic, and we know that in this environment things may change a bit, and we're preparing for that. We're working very hard to recruit a strong class and a quality class and a class that has good numbers. But living through this environment, we want to be realistic, and so we will anticipate that we probably will see some decline in numbers, even as we'll work very hard to bring in the best class possible, both quantitatively and qualitatively.
A student asked, will there be an email sent out when the campus is opened again?
A question about when campus is open again, will an email be sent out? Absolutely. There will be no secret when this campus reopens. We'll send an email out. We may do a lot more than that, but yes, we will not keep you in the dark about our campus reopening, and we will be so excited about that and about having our students back with us, as it should be.
And the final question, how is TLU's reimbursement affecting the school financially? Will the school be able to balance its budget after making these repayments?
So a financial question in terms of the institutional picture, as TLU makes these refunds, what kind of impact does that have, and what does that mean for our financial future? I really appreciate that question. Providing these refunds does come at some cost to TLU, but we understand completely that that is the right thing to do, and it was something that we had no question about doing. What we've done once we made that decision and determined how we needed to look at that financially is we've gotten to work on where we can find savings in terms of this spring with less activity on campus. We've done some other conversations with for example, with our food vendor to work on some adjustments on their charges to us. We're looking at multiple ways to make sure that the institution can stay strong even as it has a smaller revenue from room and board. And I would say that we're making good progress on that. There's still some unknowns and there's still some figures that are being finalized, but we're working very hard to ensure that TLU has a very strong and bright, not only academic future, but a financial future as well. And I do appreciate your concern and question about that.
That's all the questions for today.
All right. I've been told that that's all the questions, and I just want to say a thank you for those great questions. Several of them will lead me to do some follow-up. I know that you have many concerns, and I just appreciate the fact that you're taking advantage of this opportunity to first listen to me and then to ask me questions. And as I said last time, I always welcome that and encourage you to continue to be in touch. Now, I'll plan to do another town hall before this semester is over to provide further updates, and I do expect there to be some, and to give you the opportunity to ask more questions. We're also going to continue to provide daily updates as we have been. Those will come via email. They're usually out in the morning, and those will come either from the Safety and Emergency Management Committee or from me. And even though those are daily and you're getting them all the time and you may think, oh, there's probably not going to be anything else I need to read, I want to encourage you to keep reading those updates and let those be helpful to you, because we take time every day to think about what we need to make sure our community is aware of, particularly our students. So just know that those updates will keep coming, and I encourage you to read them. Along with all of that, I'm available if you have questions or concerns. And as always, I welcome your being in touch. I miss you, and I wish each and every one of you a very good rest of the semester. Thank you so much for being such great Bulldogs. Stay safe and well.